objective you have while running a campaign. Is it about brand promotion? Is it about CRM? Is it about measuring reputation? Is it about online sales? So depending upon the objective, which is a why part, becomes important. If you have an answer to that, then you can begin. Second is, given you have the objective, what would you like to measure? So based on your objectives, you will define the metrics. And third is, how will you measure? So that's where the tools and dashboards come, right? So it's why, what, and how. And these three fundamental questions, if you answer, then of course you will have to think about the tool you use, the dashboard you create, and the most important, the actions you take out of that, right? So with this, I think we have enough time for Q&A. We don't need to rush for Q&A. So there is, I think, 25 minutes before we break for lunch. So floor is open for public questions. So who would want to begin? And please, if you have a question, just say that, who do you want this question to be directed at, so that concerned panelists can answer for you, right?
Okay, good afternoon, panelists. My name is Alton, and I have a question directed to Mr. Manish and also Ms. Zhang. That's a very interesting talk. First question I would like to ask is Mr. Manish's presentation about your statistics. What is your view on local marketing growth? Like, for example, when I said you're saying Facebook is dying in 3 years, so which part of in Malaysia, do we see growth in our local country's social network platform? Does it any growth like in Renren for China, for example? Sure. The second question would be your value estimations. Is there any like a scientific value to justify 15 million that you mentioned just now?
Sure.
And yeah, one last question to Ms. Zhang is the content validity of your brand. Do you measure it with some ethical measures? Like, for example, do you validate it, the content? Is it truth or false? Because in China, you have a lot of trends flying around, say something controversial, and I just spark it online, and the brands will leverage on it, try to make money out of it. So what's your take on that? Thank you.
All right, great. So I think if I was to take your questions, where do I see the growth of Facebook? Essentially, if you look at what's really happened in the US, I mean, at some point you're going to hit the number of users. So what's really happened is two things have started declining. About 6-8 months ago, we started seeing the amount of time spent on Facebook start to decline in the US. And a few months later, the actual number of users also declined a little in the US. In India, we're at about 63 million users right now on Facebook. My sense is we'll go up to about 80, 90, 100 million, and then it'll start flattening out or declining. That's just the way, I mean, every social network so far in life has shown that trend. I see nothing to tell me why Facebook won't also follow the trend. If it doesn't follow the trend and carries on forever, great news for everybody. But if it does fall off, it's my responsibility to tell my clients to prepare for it, and anyway prepare to have a media neutral presence. So it's really to be better safe than sorry. And the example I can tell you is, 5 years ago, we all thought that MySpace was going to be it. Where is MySpace now? 10 years ago, we thought Microsoft would be king of the hill. Where is that now? 1 year ago, we thought Apple was king of the phone business. Where is it now? Things change so fast in this world that you can't mortgage your brand on some other platform's success or failure. You have to protect your brand. Platforms can come and go. Networks can come and go. Your brand should be under your protection. So that was the philosophy behind that particular statement. I must confess, I'm not very conversant with Malaysia stats, but we do think that around 4 years from now, by 2016, 2017, it'll start flattening out. So you have a good 2.5-year run before you need to start figuring out what is your exit strategy and where do you go. That's the answer to the first question. In all this answer, I forgot your second question, sir. Could you possibly repeat that? The answer is 42.
Okay. Right, your value estimation, how do you justify that with your scientific? Because we have a media value here.
That's right, I understand that. Sorry, I forgot that. So if there's somebody, is anybody here from a traditional PR business who used to be at some point in PR? So they can tell you how you do a traditional PR value estimation is what is the value of the write-up as equated to the value of an ad of the same size with some multiple on it or no multiple on it. So if you say that you got a front page write-up which is about 200 column centimeters, you say on the front page a 200 column CC ad would have cost X. Now I'm going to multiply that by some value factor because editorial is more valuable than advertising or something. In the online world, what we've done here is very simple. attributed values to every tweet based on the number of followers of, or unique people that tweet reached through the RTs and so on and so forth. We valued each Facebook post in an open stream. We don't hack into streams based on the number of people that we estimate have read it. We put values on everything, we put CPMs on everything, and hence we are able to come back and give you an approximated equivalent value of, to be able to get online advertising of the same physical dimension in front of the same type of audience, what would it cost you? And we don't put any multiple in it. That's our value estimation. So it's a pretty, very, very complex, calculation that happens because we had to sit and program 250 property, online properties and their virtual kind of estimated CPMs. So that's the second one. Was there a third question or? There was a question to her?
The question was to Ms.
Sure.
Zhang from CIC.
I hope I answered your question.
Yes, but I will talk to you more about it.
All right, great, sorry.
Okay, first I will speak a bit slower that everyone can understand me. If you can't understand, just stop me. For your question about is the content true or not? Actually, we are helping our brand to identify the content because, frankly speaking, there's a lot of this kind of fake buzz in China, especially that we actually face situations that in China because we are helping our brand to tracking the online buzz. 2 or 3 years ago, all the brands is chasing for the awareness online, but then there's coming a question for the conflict between the senior management as well as for the execution level. Senior management, they want to understand, okay, for the awareness, we want the buzz. Then the execution level, they will, together to reach the target, then they will find some people to do this kind of seeding post. This is not our purpose. So then we identify the way to understand, okay, what is the buzz quality, which means what kind of buzz we find as the seeding post. The buzz quality, they actually have some this kind of very similar feature. For example, the article is too long or the posting time is actually or 1 second can post around 4 to 5 similar contents. Then we will put them into this kind of seeding post. We will kick out the buzz. And also the second way is for the quality of engagement, as I showed just now, for the fans. We always say not only on Facebook but also on the Signal Weibo, which is equivalent to Facebook to Twitter. There's a lot of brands that have been there and they want to understand for a number of fans I have, how many are high impact fans. From the very beginning, we just using the number of followers they have to understand the impact. But from the year trend, we actually find more and more this kind. We call the zombie fans. They have been evaluated. They have different ways to track. They have different features. For example, they like to have the logos or looking at the real fans, but then they still have some things that we can identify. So we are helping our brand to better evaluate.
Okay, maybe I just clarify a bit because I know that in China you have a Starbucks and then there's an equivalent of Starbucks, which is like a Chinese version of it. So how does it take your validity of its content if it spreads between these two big brands equivalent? If you know that, what I mean is that.
Sorry, can you speak? I can't hear clearly.
Yeah, it's for example, you have a Starbucks, which is the original from US, and China, you have created another Starbucks, which is the same, except the logos, all that, you've just changed it to match. So how do you justify the validity of the content? It says it's coming from these two big brands.
We actually would like to understand first, still that the content or the fans or from the content perspective, is that really impactful or any that is kind of buzz qualities from the buzz quality point of view, are they more like the seeding post or still that the content is really impact. And also we'd like to distinguish the content being posted by what we call the influencers as well as the seeding posts. Because the seeding posts, they actually don't have much impact. They will not get this kind of much of the replies, but for the influencers, they will have the engagement. So there is actually have some differences. And also for Starbucks, I think currently we saw it's okay at this level.
So, can you please raise your hand if you have a question so that mic can come to you? Yes, please. Can we have a mic there?
Thank you. My name is Sarah, and it was a pleasure to listen to all of you about the ROI, which is of interest to myself. One of the questions is, I know that in terms of social media, a lot of the campaigns do bring a lot of brand awareness and also top of mind in the image of consumers. But how does one justify, in your perspective and opinions, on how to justify the amount of investment that brands are putting out there for the amount of returns that they're getting in terms of the bottom line, as well as overall profitability of the company?
Yes, you want to begin?
Yeah. So if I was to understand your question was how exactly does one justify a brand's presence or a brand's investment in social media? There are 2 or 3 ways, and the most basic way is to say that, look, if you're not listening to and responding to issues about your brand, like we've seen in the case of Lance Armstrong or whatever, all these other companies, your brand can die. So it's almost like saying, it's like oxygen. How do you value oxygen? Well, the answer is if you don't breathe, you will die. I think that's the first fundamental value, saying you at least must be doing your listening and responding at the very first level, because that will ensure your survival. Beyond that, it gets into communicating out with your audience. Now, there's an interesting Nielsen study that I can point you to that was done last year that talks about the credibility of various media in the consumer's eyes. The most credible media, even in Malaysia and India and all over the world, the number 1 most credible media in the world is word of mouth from my friends, what my friends told me. The number 2 most credible media in the world is what a stranger told me online. The number 3 most credible media in the world is editorial in a newspaper. And number 7 is television ad, and number 9 is newspaper ad, and number 15 is outdoor ad. So if you understand that the most credible way, look at it yourself, would you go to a movie because you saw an ad about the movie, or your friend said, hey, don't go to that movie? Or your friend said, go see that movie. You yourself know that your own reason to see a movie or buy a product is extraordinarily influenced by what your friends tell you, followed by what strangers tell you. A simple way of understanding it is your friends are your Facebook group and your strangers are your Twitter group. So if you look at it from a credibility point of view, there's no question that the credibility levels of Facebook and Twitter are multiple times that of television advertising and print advertising. Multiple times. Television and print are 40% and 35% credibility, while friends and strangers are at 80% and 70% credibility. Right? That's the second way. The third is really the cost per reach. How do you justify a television spend? You say, I do a cost per rating point, or this is a cost per 1,000. The cost per 1,000 on television, I don't know what it is in Malaysia, but for a top television program in India, the cost per 1,000 is about 25,000 to 30,000 rupees, right? Which is about 1.5 to 2,000 ringgit per 1,000. Now, if you look at that, and that's almost 2 ringgit per person, is the cost for reaching a person, including the cost of the ad on television. If you look at that similar cost in the online world, you will absolutely see that you're not going to even spend a fraction of that. So you will probably spend 1/20th of that to 1/10th of that in reaching people. The one thing television does that social does not do is talk to a wide mass of people. I don't know how big social media is so far. I mean, we have, like I said, Malaysia has 28 million people. I'm not sure, maybe 6-7 million might be there on social. India has 65 million people on social. But the 65 million people on social in India, even though it is only 5% of India's population, controls 85% of the GDP buying power. So even that 5%, which is the tip of the pyramid, has the highest buying power. You put all of this together, and you will find that, how long can you say no to social? You're, deluding yourself, waiting for somebody else to make a move. And if you think you're not moving, perhaps then your competitor should look at you and say, we will move against this brand by getting the customers away from you. So these are 4 reasons I've given that you may consider as useful. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, great. And just to add to what Mahesh said, let's take an example of a large corporate which is a public listed company. What do you think is the stock price a function of? So typically, fundamentally, stock price is a function of sentiment about a brand. What people are saying about it. If you look at that, today in social media, especially Twitter, people are talking about you. And so your tweets, what's the sentiment, how many people are talking, has a direct correlation with the stock price. We have seen many examples in the industry. In India, we had seen a bank, there was a rumor, there was a tweet about a rumor, a bank shutting down, $150 million market cap went down. And once that original tweet was discovered, it got back in 24 hours. And so while that is on a large corporate, similar behavior would be definitely applicable for all of us. There are companies which do analytics to relate sentiment on Twitter with the stock price. So one is cost of inaction, and second, if you see here what people are talking about you will always have an impact. To some extent you will be able to measure, many times you may not be able to even measure. But that really tells you why it is important to be able to listen and respond what people are talking about you. Great. Yeah, can we have more questions? If you have a question, please raise your hand. Yeah, Malini. Can we have a mic, please? Or you want to tweet about it?
No, Malini will get a mic for you.
Hi. I really enjoyed everything that you had to say. I come from the other side. I'm sort of media and a blogger. And one of the biggest problems I face is that brands don't recognize the value of being online. So what is the message and how do you communicate to them that they will become irrelevant and this will be a problem for them? What is the right way to get this across?
We certainly are, we absolutely do loudly promote the fact that much like in the old days, you had to go in a PR program and talk to journalists and have lunch with them and give them booze or kai piroshkas or whatever, to get them to write about you. People like you are the citizen journalists of this new age. So what we use, our own list of 6,000, 7,000 entities, and they're all sorted by what they talk about, who they talk about. So when we do something for Airtel Money, we talk to the consumer finance people. When you do something for Airtel 4G, we talk to the tech geek gadget guys. And this is not just a one-off. We manage them in a year-round program. So we make a set of 30, 40, 50 people across 3-4 cities. We meet them every 3 months. We sit around a coffee table. Actually, the one thing that you may not be happy about is we never pay them. So I'm sorry if that breaks your heart, right? So one of the things that we really talk about is how can you, give enough excitement and news to. But maybe you're different. You're a professional blogger. For a lot of people, they're amateur bloggers. They're very happy to be given breaking news. How can you break news? So the Airtel 4G launch in India, was broken out. The ICICI's new product launches are again done through this way. So we're doing this for banks, telcos. Now we're doing this for actually confectionery and chocolate product companies. And it's just happening more and more. So we actually do what we call an evangelist management program, where we sit back and say, these are the evangelists. We will meet them as these frequencies. This is what we will discuss. And it's done with as much insight and depth as we do a Meet the Journalist program, right?
Great. Thank you so much, Mahesh. I think we have time for lunch. Mahesh is off to Langkawi. Maybe you want to catch for 5 minutes, but rest of the speakers, I'm sure, here for the next 3 days. Let's break for lunch. We have an interesting session just after lunch as well. So stay there. Over to you, Ted.
Thank you, Pradeep. Lunch is not served just yet. Just hang on tight, folks. We're not serving lunch just yet because Battle of the Bands is going to set up first. They'll be setting up, and once they're done, then I'll announce lunch. And we have a very exciting program to launch shortly. So before we do that, I'd like to invite Chris Stock up to the stage. He's, of course, council member of the Social Media Chambers, Malaysia, to give our tokens of appreciation to our speakers. Don't worry, folks, we won't keep you too long. We won't stand in the way of your lunch. But please join me in thanking our panel one more time. Thank you very much, Pradeep Chopra, CEO Digital Vidya India, our moderator. And it's things like that, that's the reason 9,331 people are watching us live right now. Thank you very much, Mr. Anshul Jain, for sharing. Founder, Thought Buzz Singapore, also one of our main partners today. And all the way from China, from CIC, she's the regional director, APAC, Magic Zhang. And we'll definitely work on increasing your presence online, sir. Mr. Mahesh Murthy, CEO of Pinstorm India. I'd like to invite our panel for a quick group photograph before we move on to our next exciting launch. You want to stay in your seats for this one. Thank you very much, panel number 3. I guess some of us tweeted up on the tweet deck that it can get really scary when people talk analytics and numbers in social media. So it's getting really brainstormy, and everyone's using their brain power a lot more in the last 2 sessions, I know. But coming up next is the fun part of the event. And to do the honors of launching something very special to Cyber Treasure Hunt, we'd like to thank the Ministry of Higher Education for this. And we have the Deputy Minister of Higher Education himself joining us this morning to do the honors of launching. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage Yang Berhormat Dato' Saifuddin Abdullah, Deputy Minister of Higher Education Malaysia. Yang Berhormat, on my count of 3, would you kindly press the launch button? 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, everyone, for officially launching the Cyber Treasure Hunt on the Ministry of Higher Education's Facebook page. Now, the countdown is how much time you have left to actually go there. So basically, after the clock hits 0, that's when you should start liking the page. That's when you should check out the latest updates on the treasure hunt. All will be uploaded in 50 minutes and 44 seconds. So Yang Berhormat also has a very interesting session to share with us tomorrow. He'll be back with his presentation proper. And just before I send you off to lunch, another quick announcement to make. Battle of the Bands will be taking stage while you enjoy your meals. So please do vote for them. They're there to vie for your votes. 5 bands performing today, 5 bands performing tomorrow, all happening on our stage as well. And that's all next door. We'd like to thank Tune Talk, of course, our official sponsor for this. Thank you very much, ladies and